Hi again. We're going to finish now. I'm sorry to have 3 segments, but it works better with my recording system, and I'm hoping it works for you. This last part, I'm just going to tell you about one other thing about this time that I'm going to tell you about so that you can do this activity at home. It's kind of a fun thing to do, but we need to realize the seriousness of what it was all about. Now, during that time when the war was going on, our country, other than at Pearl Harbor, was never attacked by another country. We didn't have bombs or, war going on in America during that time. There was a lot of that going on in Europe, especially in, a lot of countries, and Asia. And England is one you'll hear more about if you continue through the Molly books, because England had a lot of bombs and damage, and just was a bad time. And so they sent some of their children to countrysides where it was safe. If you've read C.S. Lewis's Narnia books, the Pevensey children, the 4 children, the 2 boys and 2 girls, are sent to the country of this professor's home, and that's where all the Narnia adventures take place. That was supposed to be during World War II, and that's what happened. These kids were rounded up. Their parents were, in on the whole thing, of course, but they were sending their children to a safe place because London, particularly, which is the capital of England, was getting bombed, and it was dangerous for the children and anyone to be around. And so the parents sent their children there, or they sent them to America. And you'll see in the Molly books that that's going to touch Molly's home as her new friend Emily Bennett comes over to stay with them, and the ups and downs of what all that came to be. So I'd really encourage you to read all the Molly books. If you haven't been reading, get back into them, and if you can and you have the copies, read all the books. The first part of the books seem a little bit kind of talking about the kids and the family arguing, and I think that's not necessary. But there's other good parts in there that you will see as the books go on. All that to say is the war was a dangerous thing. And although we had no bombs falling in America and no war on our turf other than, of course, the terrible thing in Pearl Harbor, we were being prepared. We had to be prepared in case it happened. So what they did back then is they had blackout drills. And what would happen is a siren would go off. And it sounded a lot like the siren that you hear when it's the first Tuesday of every month at 10 o'clock, there's a siren that goes off, and it's like a warning siren. And it goes kind of loud and high, and then it gets softer and goes down, and it goes back and forth on that pattern. And when you hear it, that is what the sound sounded like for these drills. What they were doing, they were having the American people in every community across the whole United States practice, so that in case some airplanes came over our community and dropped bombs, which would be terrible, we could be prepared and safer because we knew it was coming, and we went and protected ourselves. So what the people would have to do, they would have, usually their family kind of had a routine. I'm going to refer to a film clip that you can watch. If you own the Molly movie, you can watch this part when they practice the blackout scene. If not, I will give your parents a reference to a clip that I have of that. But they did this, and sometimes the family would have a, like say in Molly's family, maybe Jill made sure the curtain was down, and maybe her older brother made sure all the outside lights were off, or everybody would have a job, and they would scramble together and get it all done. Every light had to be turned off, outside and inside, and they had special curtains called blackout curtains. I think I have I thought I had a picture, but I think what it is just that this picture shows that it was very black, and you can't really see, but it's a fabric that's very black, and it doesn't let any light come through. And they would put those up on the window so that no light could come in, and also they had their lights off. And then they would scramble down to a basement if they had it, or maybe an inner room that didn't have any windows, or if they did have a window, made sure all the lights were off and those blackout curtains were down on the windows. They also would bring and would have prepared ahead of time, if it was in the basement or in the special room, they would have had a box of supplies there so that they would be prepared if they had to go there during a blackout. Because if there really was an attack from above, they would want to have supplies because they might be down there in the basement or in the special room for hours. You just didn't know. When it was a blackout drill, then it was monitored. There were men around town and women that would be wardens. Here's a picture of one. And they would go around from house to house and check to make sure your lights were off. And if somebody had left a light on, or there was something peeking out of their car or their house, just a second. No, Lily. I am so sorry, but my dog wants to come in the room, and my husband is not here right now. I am almost finished. They had to make sure that all the lights were out, these wardens. So if there was a problem, they would let you know, hey, be more careful next time. You left such and such on, okay? All right, so then you do that. Now, you would go down into your special room. In Molly's case, they go in the basement, and they would sit down there. There's Molly down there with Emily, that girl I told you from England that's going to be, you're going to hear about later. And here's, families making do with what they had, and going to the safety place. What would you bring down to that special place? What kind of box would you have down there to keep your family safe and okay during that time, whether it was hours or a short time? We know. One thing you would have would be a radio. Now that's a smaller radio. Lots of people had the big ones you've probably seen pictures of, and I'll show you more in another week because we're going to talk about entertainment at that time another week. But at least a radio would be like a big box, and you could hear the news, you could hear what was going on. And back then they didn't have TV, so they listened to programs of enjoyment, stories on the radio. So a radio would be very important to keep you in touch with the world. What else would you put in here? I have a little box here that I put some things in. Now, nowadays, might want to have some what? You might get hungry while you're down there. What if it's for a long time? Sure, you're going to get hungry. Everybody's tummy is going to be growling. Now, nowadays, we might pick like a energy bar or granola bar, or this is a fig bar, or a jar of peanut butter, which wasn't something they would see as much back then. But that would be good, a good protein source. These bars, some of these bars have more protein than others. And you might have a big jug of water. Now, I brought a water bottle. They didn't have them like this back then. They would have had probably a canteen that you would take camping or hiking and have that full of water, because water is a great thing to store. You don't have to worry about it being refrigerated. But back then they might have some fruit, but you couldn't keep fresh fruit down there a long time. So you would maybe replenish your box so you always had enough to eat down there. Maybe some crackers. That would keep pretty well, or some bread for a while, just depending on what you had. Maybe Mom had made some cookies, and you could grab those and bring those down, or something like that. Just something to keep you nourished while you're downstairs. You might bring a book to read. Maybe everybody had one book down there. That was their book that they wanted to have available so that they could read. You might have a game of cards, so you could play cards. And you would need something to be able to see. Now, we're not going to put our lights on, but they said you could have a candle, or if you had a lantern that burned a dim light, you could use that. Would you take a birthday candle? This is a small one. No, that wouldn't last at all. You would take a bigger candle and light it, or maybe a little bit wider candle. And you would have something like that. So, of course, you would have to have matches, right? So those are some of the things: food, light, entertainment that you would keep down there. Now, what I want you guys to do is to make your own little shelter and pretend with your family or your brother, sister, or whoever that you're having blackout drill. Pretend the siren goes off. If you go on your phone and push air raids siren, you can get a recording of one if you want to make it kind of fun and have that siren playing. And then your family or you or whoever's doing it would scramble to get things ready. Now, I don't think you're going to probably put blackout curtains up because that was a special fabric and special thing that they had back then. But if we were having this in class, I always bring this black fabric and have you girls, if you were there, I can't hand it to you through the phone, but if you have something black or navy blue or dark, maybe hang it over one or two of your windows to get the idea. And then turn all your lights off in your house. Now, these were done at night. So you would turn all the lights off, outside, inside, and scramble down to the basement or whatever room you're going to if you don't have a basement, and then sit around down there. Some people have done this, our kids have done this, and what Molly actually did is to get a card table or some kind of table and put a cloth over it so it's like a little fort or a little shelter inside. That would be fun for a basement or a main floor fallout shelter, blackout shelter too. Anything like that. And then maybe have a few snacks with you, some crackers and some water or something easy to put together, and the other things that we talked about. And let me know if you want to. Your moms can text me or email me how that went, okay? That's just to get an idea of what it was like back then to have these blackout drills. One thing I didn't mention, I'll tell you real quick, with blackouts is that they also, if you had a car and you were out driving when the siren went off, they had something you could put over your headlights. They almost look like eyelashes or eyelids, I should say, that would make the light of your headlights, instead of going straight out, they would go down. The light would go down. And that's what you did to keep the light down. Now, the whole point of this whole thing of blackout your house, black out your cars, black out the street lights, black out your whole neighborhood, is because if a plane was flying over and they saw some light, they think there is a house or a business or a town or whatever that I can drop a bomb on. There's people living there. If no lights are on, they don't see lights, they hopefully don't drop a bomb. And that was the whole reason for blackouts. So have fun with that. Let me know how it goes. I just found 2 pictures in my searching that I just want to add to my last video, and let's hope it works. Here's a actual advertisement for rationing, and I forgot that was buried under my things. It said, rationing means a fair share for all of us. And they have a picture of a lady hoarding a whole bunch of groceries, and has not been fair because they didn't have rationing then. And then they have a lady with rationing coupons and another lady with rationing coupons, the same 2 ladies, and everyone's happy because there's enough to share. You get a couple of these things, you get a couple of these things, not you get everything and I have nothing left. And that's kind of what we're doing nowadays with this coronavirus. Only take what you need. Don't take tons and tons of toilet paper or tons and tons of water or whatever it is. Make sure there's enough for everyone. And then here's a picture of rationing your fair share. Do with less so they'll have enough. And they show a man in his army uniform drinking a cup of coffee and appreciating that he has enough because you gave up yours, sort of thing. All right, guys, I'm going to cut this off and hope that it works, that you can get this and we can share our class together this way. Thank you. Bye.